Hey guys, it's Scott here and welcome to something a little bit controversial most likely. This is going to be my thoughts on my club or my team, Leicester City, sacking our now ex-manager Claudio Ranieri. Obviously this happened a couple of days ago, and in the streams since it was announced, or like as soon as it was announced, people were flooding the chat with it on a stream, and since then I've probably discussed it on stream for getting close to 3 hours now. But it's got to the point where I don't want to do that anymore. I just wanted to upload this video explaining all of my thoughts and why I agree or disagree with the points that have been made and the decision itself. I welcome any of your comments and opinions on this subject, and I will read all of them in the comments section. But I please ask that, because on some of the streams we got loads of people disliking and stuff like that because of my opinion. I appreciate that you may disagree, but I would rather have just a normal discussion rather than you just saying your opinion's wrong, you're an idiot. So, like I say, I will read all of yours. Whilst I may not agree with you, I will understand that that is your thought process. But I think that it's difficult for anyone that is not a Leicester fan and hasn't been a Leicester fan for their entire life to be able to comment on this. You do not have the same feelings as what we have gone through in like the last 12, 18 months, whatever you want to call it. So, let's get into it, shall we? Do I agree with the decision to sack Claudio Ranieri? It's obviously the main question and the first point. I'm going to say, as briefly as possible, unfortunately, yes. Now, that's already controversial. A lot of people are already going to hate me for that, or maybe they'll be intrigued as to why. So, there's so many reasons why, okay? Unfortunately, I will say that so many times in this video because I loved the guy. He was probably the best manager that we'll ever have in terms of the achievement that he gave us last year. Something unbelievable, probably the biggest achievement in sporting history, or the most unbelievable one. Just, it shouldn't have been possible, right? So, to go from that to what has just happened, for most people, is just unthinkable. How can you go from turning a very average team into the champions to then getting sacked? To some people, it doesn't make any sense. Now, like I say, I have the utmost respect for Claudio Ranieri, and I think every single one of our fans, even the ones that have been telling him that he should be going for like 3 months now, will respect him, and they are forced to respect him for what he did last year. And it will not surprise me if in the future, I don't know whether it will be like in the summer or in years to come, that there will be some kind of statue or something named after Ranieri because of the achievement that he gave to our club. Because it was just so incredible, and you cannot disrespect someone for that, okay? Now, with that being said, you should not get away with living off of history, right? And I think one thing that is very hypocritical is Arsenal fans. I'm just going to call them out as the first ones for saying that it's a terrible decision when they moan about Wenger needing to be sacked, right? Because he hasn't done anything and he's failing after having good success in previous years, right? I know it's not exactly the same, but I'll get to it in a little bit. So, the main reasons why he has been sacked, if we go to the club statement, they have basically said that whilst he was an absolute legend and he was incredible and massively overachieved and achieved something no one thought was possible, they don't base the club on sentimental values, right? It's about improving the club, keeping it as good and as big and etc. and as, I guess, successful as possible, right? And so, let me just take a random quote from it. Claudio has brought outstanding qualities to his office. His skillful management, powers of motivation and measured approach have been reflective of the rich experience we always knew he would bring to Leicester City. Okay? Then, blah, blah, blah. It was never our expectation that the extraordinary feats of last season should be replicated this season. Obviously, they've said that Premier League survival was our first and only target of this campaign. Okay? So, the reason that they have said that he's basically gone is because it's not about, like I say, sentimental values. It's about keeping the club as as good as it can possibly be and as successful as possible. So, where did it say in here? We are duty bound to put the club's long-term interests above all sense of personal sentiment, no matter how strong that may be. This has been the most difficult decision we've had to make in nearly 7 years since King Power took ownership of Leicester City. It's been likened to shooting Bambi. Like, he's the most lovable guy, basically, and most entertaining guy that there's been as like a Premier League manager for ages, and everybody loved him. And I think that's why a lot of people are having such an outrageous response to him getting sacked, because they just see the Ranieri that they see in a press conference and the highlights of him saying dilly ding, dilly dong, and all of that stuff, rather than all the other stuff, which is the issue right now. So that's why they have got rid of him right now. And they're going to try and recruit someone, obviously, as soon as possible. In my opinion, it's very, very weird that they haven't got someone lined up already. And also, I think that there are two things that, whilst I sort of agree with the decision, there are two things I disagree with. One is that they sacked him rather than making him resign. I think it would have been more dignifying had they asked him to step down so that he could go out on his own terms like that, rather than saying, get out. Right? Because I think he deserved that. Even if they are basically forcing him to resign, I still think that is more... that has better dignity to it than just completely sacking him. Because he deserves to say, you know what, I've not done as well this season, I'm going to step down. I think that should have been the way that it was done. And also, the fact that they put out the club's statement before, saying that he has our unwavering support, and then they've deleted that. That is really, really bad, and I completely disagree with that. That's stupid. You should not... They shouldn't have brought out that statement in the first place, in my opinion. If you're supporting the manager, then he's still in a job. You don't need to say that you're supporting the manager, otherwise he wouldn't be in the job. It's very simple. So then to sack him and delete that statement is really, really bad. And I don't like that at all. But a lot of people will look at this from the outside in, and they won't know how much our owners have done for us. Like, without them, we wouldn't have even been, like, near the Premier League. We were down near the bottom of the Championship. It was not good for us at all. We were not in a good place. And they have built us up, provided us the money and funds and everything to build up our team and our club in order to get to a Premier League status, and then also to do the unbelievable. So I have faith in our owners because of what they've done over the last, I think they said 7 years that they've been here, because it's been good. They've made very, very good decisions. So I trust them, and a lot of people will look at them and think, who are they? Who are they to come in and just say, oh, you're not good enough, get out? People don't understand how much they've done, unfortunately. So now, the reasons why I personally believe he has gone, and why I think that it was potentially the only way that this club could go. Okay? So, results. Obviously, this season we have been atrocious. Really, really bad. We are as it stands right now, I am recording this. I'm recording this at 4:30 on the Saturday, and so there are games going on as it stands, and if we look at the table, we are... If it wants to load, live standings, we are currently 18th in the league, in the relegation zone. That's not good enough, right? Now, some people will look at it and think, you were doing worse 2 years ago. Which, yes, we were. We were doing worse. We were 20th, bottom of the league for basically the whole season, and then escaped right at the end. And it was incredible. That was the whole start of the title-winning season, was that great escape. The thing is, in that season, we were playing good football. We just got unlucky a lot of times in that season. And you may think that I'm being biased in that, but I try and be as unbiased as possible. If we don't deserve to win a game, I will admit that. First hand, the people that have followed me or watched my stuff for a long time will know that is true. So, we were playing much better football and we were getting unlucky a lot. We were conceding dodgy goals, not getting decisions, bounces, etc, etc. It was just a nightmare. And then it all turned around in the last few games. This year, we have just been atrocious. Like, I don't know how many people that are massively upset with this decision have watched our games, because we haven't competed in a lot of them. You may look at like a 2-0 loss or a 1-0 loss and think, oh, it's only 1-0. They only just lost that game. It's not the case though. We have been dominated in games from the start of the season. We lost our first game of the season to Hull, compared to losing 3 games all of last season. Our pre-season was all wrong. It was focused more on branding rather than actually player fitness, flying around to different countries to play like 3 different games in a pointless tournament. Whilst it was cool to play against the big teams and get the branding out there, it didn't help. The recruitment was also not good enough. And so the start of the season, it just wasn't good. People weren't ready, and it was just a mess from the start to right now, and our results have not been good enough. If you look at the form table for the 92 English teams in the leagues, we are bottom in 2017, not scoring any goals and getting 1 point. That's not acceptable. I don't care if you won the league or whatever the year before. Even if you didn't, that's not acceptable. To have not scored, what is the date now? The 25th of February. To have not scored and to have got 1 point is just diabolical. So, I personally don't understand why people are so outraged at this, because he was taking us down. At this rate, we were the worst in the country. We were going down. And I'll get onto the, I guess, stubbornness, which is my personal dislike of Ranieri this season in a minute. But it's not the only thing that's been going wrong this season. Since the very, very start, we lost Steve Walsh, who was like our head of recruitment. That wasn't good for us. We lost a sports psychological... I can't remember what it was. Let me very quickly see if it's on here. Backroom staff. No, not that one. I don't know, but sports psychologist, I think it was. I think he went as well. And there have been bust-ups. A lot of people will see this and not know what's going on in the background because they don't have the time or they don't care enough to have a look at it. But let me very quickly tell you some stuff from John Percy, who is like heavily... what would even be the phrase? He's involved with the club, right? Behind the scenes and stuff like that. So there are many, many things that have happened this season that people who don't really pay that much attention will not have realised, right? So if we go up to the top, this is just a few lists of the things that he's put down. So it started with, at the start of the season, sort of testing different formations for no apparent reason after last year doing so well with the 4-4-2. We won the league with 4-4-2. Why would we change from that? No one really knows other than him, apparently. Then, in against Copenhagen in November, this says is when he had a row with a popular member of the backroom staff. We don't know who that is, but that's what the story was. And it was just over a silly little thing about like the players' boots. But he seemed to just be getting riled up, and his calm personality that you see in the press conferences behind the scenes was not the same at all. And so that started, and then there were times where he was changing formation like every single game, and the players wanted him to play 4-4-2, and he basically waved it away and said, no, we're going to do what I think, even though the 4-4-2 was the thing that was working for us. So this was the start of him becoming too stubborn, unfortunately. This is also another point. Also, the players felt that they were just totally flat, that they may get relegated unless he changed something or left the club, which, again, is what I'm thinking. His treatment of Damari Gray has also been a constant source of irritation. Again, even as recently as against Sevilla the other day, even though Gray has been one of our best players this season, he didn't start. He started Ahmed Musa instead. As soon as Gray comes on, he looks so much better. And apparently the players, some of the players were baffled by that. Which is understandable because all of our fans were. Some of the decisions didn't make any sense. And apparently he was losing, some people were losing faith in him. He was having bad relations with staff members behind the scenes. A couple of players apparently seemed to have, he said that he believed that the majority of players in the dressing room still backed him. Clearly meaning a few of them definitely didn't. One notable is Leonardo Ulloa, who him and his agent said that Ranieri lied, basically, to him, saying, you will get game time, and then it just didn't happen. He didn't keep him in the squad, he dropped him, and so it was just not good. It was building up and up and up and up, and it got to the point where, in my opinion, I was starting to get frustrated maybe a month ago, because I was like, you know what, maybe it is the players, maybe it is losing people like Kante that is going to be a massive, massive factor. And obviously that is. Like, do I think that we would be in the top 5 if we still had Kante? Absolutely not. But do I think that that is the reason why we are near the bottom? No. Excuse me. I believe that the players haven't been good this year, obviously. Now, what do you do if a player isn't playing well? On like a long run of games, you drop them and you give someone else a chance. Ranieri has not done that, and he has been stubborn for the entire season, sticking with the same players over and over again. And again, like I say, even Demarai Gray not starting against Sevilla makes no sense to any of our fans. He seems to see things in a very different way to anybody else. And so now that he's gone, a lot of the blame is being placed on the players. Yet, last season, they're saying that it was Ranieri who won them the title, not the players who won the title. So Ranieri, the manager, got all the credit for winning the title, but now it's the players' fault that they're not doing well. A manager, a top-class manager, should be able to see that players aren't playing well and adapt. He's not adapted. That's clear. To anybody that has been watching us play, he's not adapted. We don't have any of different tactics. We play the same players even though they're underperforming, and we have people that we could even give a go to on the bench, and we're just not doing it. It just doesn't make sense. And so, as I said, about a month ago was the point where I was getting a bit tired of it, and I was thinking, you know what are you doing? Why are you still starting these players? And I said, he'll have a few games. If we do not beat Swansea, he will be gone. But I think that they will give him the first leg against Sevilla just as a final hurrah before he goes. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. It just got to the point, even against Sevilla, we were playing players that should have been dropped. And I think that was the final straw. The players are getting a lot of hate right now because apparently they had meetings with the board, even though Kasper Schmeichel has come out and he has said on radio and on TV, the owners are notorious, like if you follow our club, for being heavily involved, rather than other owners of other clubs that are just there purely for the money and stuff like that. They don't really take interest. These guys go to training sessions, they go to all the games, etc, etc. They're heavily involved, and they talk to the players all the time, whether it be about the games, whether it be about the weather, or TV programs. Just, they are friendly people, right? So they've spoken to the players. Apparently 4 times this season they have had meetings, which is understandable, right? If you're going to have meetings with the players, that's not really outrageous. If the results aren't going well, you want to talk to the players and see why they're not going well. In my mind, that's just logical. Some people say it's an outrage. I don't understand that. So the players have apparently said things like, oh, we don't understand why the manager is using these formations when we should be playing 4-4-2, etc, etc. Just saying, voicing their frustrations. And it got to the point where the owners, looking at the results, looking at the frustrations within the club, the relationship bust-ups, just thought, you know what, unfortunately, as much as we hate to do it, you're not changing anything, you're going to have to go. And I think that is why. And in my opinion, as much as I hate to say it, I believe that's the right thing to do as well. It was either the team needed to change, something massive needed to change, whether it be the whole back four being changed, and if that wasn't going to happen, then the manager has to change. Because if the players are underperforming, you as the manager have to be able to motivate them and also chop and change where it's due. And he wasn't doing either of those. And so I personally completely understand why he's gone. Some people that aren't Leicester fans, they seem very few and far between, but some of them do understand. Look at the form table for this year. Look at our results. Look and watch us play a game of football, you will understand why Ranieri has gone. And unfortunately, again, I told you I would use that word a lot, I feel that because of what happened last season, and because of how nice Ranieri is, it's like a veil, a disguise. And so people only see him as that, and they don't think that he can do anything wrong. But look at what he's doing. I know that people always say, oh, he took a relegation team to become champions, right? He's now taken the champions to a relegation team that look diabolical in every single game we play. And I know we should not be finishing in the top 4 again. It'd be stupid to suggest that. But we should be a mid-table team. And this is why I was let down. We didn't take advantage on growing our club. We could have made signings in the summer or even January that would have helped our situation. But we didn't sign an attacking mid. We didn't sign centre-backs. We did sign a right-back, played him for 3 games in his natural position, then sold him again. It's just a mess. It's just an absolute mess. And so, as I say, unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it and as much as I love Claudio, I believe that this is, unfortunately, the correct decision because he was being too stubborn and was not changing anything, had no plan B, our tactics were terrible, our form is terrible, our results are awful. We were heading down with Ranieri as our manager. Some people think that he should have been allowed to take us down. I personally don't get that. Because if you are champions of the biggest league in the world, you should grow enough that you shouldn't think about relegation for like the next 5 years at least. No matter how average a team you are, you should have made the recruitment and changes necessary so that you shouldn't even think about this kind of thing. And unfortunately, that isn't the case. So, I believe that it's so hard to sort of describe it from my point of view. I think if you ask basically all of our fans whether we wanted Ranieri to be sacked. Actually, no. Let me rephrase that. I think if you asked all of our fans if you wanted Ranieri to be able to turn it around, they would have said yes. But if you ask all of our fans, do you want us to get relegated? Who in their right mind is going to say yes to that? And unfortunately, he was not turning it around. Therefore, we were going to get relegated at this rate. And so he went. In my opinion, as I say, because of how stubborn he was and the fact that nothing was changing, even though he's really, really likeable, he's an awesome guy, the massive legend for our club, I believe he will get a statue or something like that in the future. I think it would be ridiculous not to do it to honour what he did for our club. And so, yeah, unfortunately, I believe that as hard as it is to say, this is probably the right thing to do. People are going to ask me, who do I think should come in? I have no idea. I am going to support whoever is our manager for the rest of this season, and I believe that all of our fans should do exactly the same and support our players. There's so many fake stories coming out about them backstabbing the manager when they haven't. They've voiced their concerns to the board. They haven't said, you need to sack him. Yeah, it's honestly crazy in my eyes. So we just need to support everybody. I am welcome to your comments. I know there's going to be, like I say, a lot of controversy on this. If you've watched all of this video, well done. I have no idea how long I've been talking. Feels like a hell of a long time. But I'm going to end it here. Leave your responses and opinions in the comments below. And I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.